Your car is trying to talk to you, and chances are you have no idea what it's saying. There are features built right into your dashboard, your steering wheel, and even your seat that most drivers over 50 have never used correctly. Some of them are safety features, some of them are comfort features, and a few of them, if you ignore them, can quietly cost you hundreds, even thousands of dollars in damage you never saw coming. Now look, if you learned to drive before 1980, you learned on a car with a key, a gas pedal, a brake, and not much else. That was a good car, a simple car. You understood every button in it. But today's vehicles, even a basic sedan from the last 10 years, is packed with technology that would have looked like science fiction back then. And nobody handed you a manual when they handed you the keys. That's what this is for. Number 1. The Tire Pressure Monitoring System Light. Let's start with something that confuses almost every driver who didn't grow up with it. That little amber light on your dashboard that looks like a cross-section of a tire with an exclamation point inside it. That is your Tire Pressure Monitoring System, your TPMS. TPMS stands for Tire Pressure Monitoring System, and it became federally required on all new passenger vehicles sold in the United States after September of 2007. Here's the scenario. You walk out to your car on a cold morning. It starts fine. You pull out of the driveway, and suddenly, that little orange light glows on your dashboard. Most people see it and think, flat tire. So they pull over, get out, walk around the car, squeeze the tires, and everything feels fine. So they drive on. Here's where it gets worse. That light doesn't mean you have a flat tire. It means the pressure inside one or more of your tires has dropped below the manufacturer's recommended level, usually below 32 pounds per square inch. And here's the thing about tire pressure. A tire can be 15 to 20% underinflated and still look completely normal standing outside the car. Why does this matter? Because driving on underinflated tires causes uneven tread wear, reduced fuel efficiency, sometimes by as much as 0.2% per PSI drop, and in worst-case scenarios, it causes tires to overheat and blow out at highway speeds. The fix is simple. Every gas station in America has an air pump. Keep a small tire pressure gauge in your glove box. They cost about $5. Check your driver's door jamb. There's a sticker there that tells you the correct pressure for your specific tires. Fill them up, and that light goes off. One more thing most people don't know. On a very cold morning, the light sometimes turns on because cold air contracts inside the tire, dropping pressure temporarily. It may go off on its own once the tires warm up. But don't guess. Check it anyway. Number 2. The Lane Departure Warning System. Here's a feature that has prevented thousands of accidents and drives just as many drivers absolutely crazy. You're on the highway. You've been driving this road for 30 years. You drift slightly toward the lane line. Maybe you're changing the radio. Maybe you're just comfortable. And suddenly your steering wheel vibrates, or a loud chime goes off, or a yellow light flashes on the side of your dashboard. That is your lane departure warning system. In some vehicles, it's paired with lane keep assist, which will actually steer the car back toward the center of the lane without you doing anything. Here's what confuses most drivers over 50. They think something is wrong with the car. They bring it to a shop. The technician charges them a diagnostic fee and tells them everything is fine. Nothing is wrong. The system is working exactly as designed. But here's where it becomes a problem. Some drivers find it so annoying, especially when they're changing lanes without using a turn signal, that they start ignoring all warning sounds in the car entirely. And that's dangerous, because that same chime might also be your forward collision warning or your blind spot monitor. The fix: learn where your lane departure warning button is. On most vehicles, it's on the steering wheel or on a stalk on the left side of the column. You can turn it off for a drive if it bothers you, but understand what it's doing before you decide to ignore it permanently. Number 3. The Auto Start-Stop System. This one generates more confusion and more anger than almost any other modern feature. You're sitting at a red light, the car is in drive, your foot is on the brake, and then the engine shuts off completely. No sound, no vibration, just silence. You think, did I stall? Is the engine dead? Did something go wrong? Then the light turns green, you lift your foot off the brake, and the engine restarts instantly, in about half a second, and you drive away. That is the automatic engine start-stop system. It was designed to improve fuel economy in city driving. When you're sitting still at a light, your engine burns fuel but moves you nowhere. Start-stop cuts that waste. Here's the problem. Most people over 50 were taught that repeatedly restarting a cold engine is hard on it. And back in the day, with carburetor engines, that was true. But modern engines with fuel injection are engineered specifically to handle thousands of these micro restarts. The starter motors in start-stop vehicles are rated for far more cycles than a standard starter. That said, if you hate it, you can disable it. Almost every vehicle with start-stop has a button, usually marked with an A inside a circle with an arrow around it. Press it once before you drive, and the system stays off for that trip. It resets the next time you start the car. One important note, if your battery is weak, the start-stop system will disable itself automatically because it needs a strong battery to function. If you notice start-stop suddenly stopped working and you didn't press the button, get your battery tested. A car battery typically lasts between 3 and 5 years, and a failing battery can cause all kinds of confusing electrical behavior. If tips like these are helpful to you, go ahead and subscribe right now. We make content specifically for drivers over 50, and it could save you a lot of money and a lot of headaches down the road. Number 4. The electronic parking brake. For decades, the parking brake was a lever between the front seats. You pulled it up, you heard a satisfying mechanical click, and you knew the car was locked in place. Then, car designers moved it, and they made it a button. The electronic parking brake, sometimes called the EPB, is now a small switch or button, usually near the gear selector or on the center console. It looks nothing like what you'd expect. Some of them look like a P inside a circle with parentheses around it. Some just have a small icon of a car on a slope. Here's the scenario that causes real damage. A driver parks on an incline. They're used to the old handbrake. They look around, can't find the familiar lever, assume this car just doesn't have one, and leave the car in park, relying entirely on the parking pal inside the transmission to hold the vehicle on a hill. But here's what most car owners don't realize. The parking pal is not designed to be the primary device holding your vehicle on a slope. It's a small pin inside the transmission. Over time, parking on steep inclines without engaging the parking brake can damage that pin. A damaged parking pal can eventually make it difficult or impossible to get the car out of park, and replacing the transmission components that include the pal can cost anywhere from several hundred to over $1,000. The fix: find your electronic parking brake button before you ever need it. In most cars, you push the button down to engage and pull it up, or press it again to release. Check your owner's manual for your specific vehicle. Always use it on any slope, no matter how gentle. Number 5. Backup camera guidelines and parking sensors. Since 2018, every new car sold in the United States has been required to have a backup camera. That's a law. The federal government mandated it for pedestrian safety. So why are more drivers backing into things than ever before? Here's the issue. A backup camera gives you a wide-angle view of what's directly behind the car, but it has blind spots on the sides that most people don't account for. Drivers who learn to parallel park and reverse by looking over their shoulder, which is still a completely valid and important technique, sometimes stop doing it entirely once they have a camera. And that's where the trouble starts. Most people also don't know what the colored lines on the camera screen mean. There are typically 3 zones. Red lines close to the vehicle indicate the danger zone, about 0 to 1 foot behind the bumper. Yellow lines are the caution zone, roughly 1 to 6 feet. Green lines are the safe zone beyond that. The lines also move as you turn the steering wheel. They show your projected path. This is the feature most drivers have never figured out. Pair the backup camera with parking sensors, those beeping sounds that get faster as you approach an object, and you have a system that works incredibly well. But only if you understand it. The fix: find a quiet parking lot. Practice backing up while watching the lines move with the wheel. Use both the camera and your mirrors and a shoulder check. The camera is a supplement, not a replacement for awareness. Number 6. Keyless ignition and the carbon monoxide risk. Nobody talks about. This is the peak tip. This is the one that has genuinely cost lives. Keyless entry and push-button ignition systems are now standard on millions of vehicles. You carry a key fob in your pocket, you push a button on the door handle to unlock, and you press a button on the dash to start. No key in the ignition. Here is the problem. Drivers who spent decades turning a physical key to stop the engine have a deeply ingrained habit. Key out means engine off. But with a push-button ignition, you press the button to stop the engine. And some people, particularly if they're distracted or in a hurry, get out of the car without pressing that button. The engine keeps running, silently, in a modern car. You close the garage door. You go inside. Carbon monoxide, which is colorless, odorless, and completely undetectable without a sensor, fills the garage and can seep into the house. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, the NHTSA, has documented multiple fatalities directly linked to this situation. Several automakers have added warnings and automatic shutoff features to address it, but not all vehicles have these safeguards. The fix is simple, but it must become a habit. Every single time you get out of a vehicle with push-button ignition, look at your dashboard before you open the door. Confirm the engine is off. Confirm the indicator light is out. Make it a rule. Dashboard check before door opens. If you park in a garage, install a carbon monoxide detector inside the garage and one inside the home near the door that connects to the garage. They cost around $25 to $30, and they can save your life. Number 7. The adaptive cruise control. Misunderstanding. Classic cruise control from the 1970s and 80s was simple. Set your speed, it holds your speed. You stay alert. You brake when needed, you understood exactly what it was doing. Adaptive cruise control, now standard on most vehicles built after about 2015, does something very different. And the difference matters enormously. Adaptive cruise control uses radar sensors, usually mounted behind the front grille or in the front bumper, to detect the vehicle ahead of you. It will automatically slow down if that vehicle slows down, maintain a safe following distance, and even bring your car to a complete stop in stop-and-go traffic. Then resume when traffic moves again. Here's where it gets dangerous. Drivers who don't know this assume the car is simply holding a set speed, the way old cruise control did. So they let their attention drift more than they should. Then the car ahead makes a sudden lane change, revealing a stopped vehicle directly in front of them. The radar may not react in time, and because the driver assumed the system had everything handled, they weren't ready to intervene. Adaptive cruise control is a driver assistance tool. It is not an autopilot. It requires your eyes on the road, your hands near the wheel, and your foot hovering over the brake at all times. Also worth knowing, adaptive cruise control can be fooled by sharp curves, bad weather, and certain road markings. If rain or snow blocks the radar sensor, the system may disengage without warning. The fix: when you engage adaptive cruise control, treat it the same way you'd treat any cruise control, as a comfort feature that reduces foot fatigue, not a system that drives for you. Stay engaged, stay ready. The bottom line. Here's what all of these features have in common. They were designed to make driving safer and easier, and most of the time, they do exactly that. But when a driver doesn't understand what a feature is doing or why it's doing it, that same feature can cause confusion, frustration, and in some cases, real danger. The vehicles on the road today are extraordinary machines. They are safer than anything we drove in the 60s, 70s, or 80s. But they ask something in return. They ask you to understand them. You don't need to become a mechanic. You don't need to read a 500-page owner's manual cover to cover. You just need to know the features that affect your daily driving. And that's exactly what we're here for. So here's my question for you today, and I want you to leave it in the comments. Which one of these features confused you the most the first time you encountered it? The start-stop engine? The electronic parking brake? The keyless ignition? Let us know, because your answer helps us figure out what to cover next. And if this kind of practical, no-nonsense car knowledge is useful to you, subscribe to the channel right now. We make every video specifically for drivers over 50, because you deserve content that respects your experience and speaks to where you actually are. And we'll see you in the next one.